This experience completely changed his perspective. He was no longer the victim of inexplicable circumstances, but a man who had seen God's glory and understood, albeit partially, the vastness of his wisdom and power. This transformation is the core of the secret that every believer needs to understand and embrace. Life's difficulties are not just obstacles to overcome or burdens to bear. They are potential opportunities for a deeper and transformative encounter with God. When we face trials, whether great or small, we have the opportunity to seek God in a more intense and sincere way. It is in these moments of vulnerability and need that we are often most open to hear and experience God in new and profound ways. Job's transformation teaches us that true spiritual growth frequently occurs not in moments of comfort and ease, but in the depths of struggles and challenges. It is when we are taken beyond our own strength and understanding that we can experience the reality of a God who is greater than our circumstances and deeper than our questioning. After the transformative encounter with God and the revelation of the profound secret that changed his perspective, Job's narrative comes to a surprising and instructive conclusion. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part, the text tells us in Job 42. This restoration of Job is often misinterpreted as a simple reward for his faithfulness or as a happy ending that compensates for all his suffering. However, a more careful reading reveals a deeper and more significant truth. Job's restoration is not just material. Although the text mentions that he received twice as much as he had lost, Job receives new sons and daughters, lives to see several generations of his descendants, and dies old and full of days, Job 42. But the most important aspect of this restoration is that it comes after Job's transformation. He is not simply returned to his previous state. He is a changed man, with a deeper understanding of God and of himself. This teaches us that the true treasure, the true happy ending, is not in material blessings or external circumstances, but in the intimate and transformative relationship with God that Job now experiences. It is crucial to note that Job's restoration does not deny or minimize his previous suffering. His losses were real and painful, and they are not simply erased. The children he lost are not replaced by the new ones. Instead, Job experiences a new phase of life, enriched by the wisdom and perspective he gained through his trials. This aspect of Job's story teaches us a vital lesson. Even if we do not understand the reason for our trials at the time we experience them, we can trust that God is working for our supreme good. This good may not be what we initially imagine or expect, but it is something much more valuable, a deeper knowledge of God and a transformation of our character. Job's story does not promise that all faithful believers will experience a material restoration like his. Instead, it points to a deeper spiritual truth, that God is able to redeem even the most painful experiences and transform them into opportunities for spiritual growth and blessing. Job's secret shows us that even if we do not understand the reason for our trials, we can trust that God is working in us and through us, molding us to his image. Now that we have unveiled Job's powerful secret, the question that naturally arises is, how can we apply this transformative truth in our daily lives? How can this ancient knowledge impact our faith journey in the modern world? First, we need to understand and accept that difficulties are not necessarily a sign of God's disfavor. Job's story completely dismantles the simplistic notion that suffering is always a divine punishment for sin. Job was a righteous man, and yet he faced severe trials. This frees us from the oppressive mentality that all suffering is a direct result of our personal failures or sins. Instead, we are invited to see our struggles as potential opportunities to grow in our faith and in our knowledge of God. When we face challenges, instead of immediately asking, why is this happening to me? Logically, we can begin to ask, what can I learn about God through this? This change in perspective is profound and can radically alter our response to adversities. Second, Job's secret teaches us to value personal experience with God above theoretical knowledge about Him. Just as Job went from hearing about God to seeing God, we are challenged to seek a deeper intimacy in our relationship with the divine. This may mean dedicating time for contemplative prayer, meditating deeply on the Scriptures, or simply being attentive to God's presence in our daily lives. The goal is to move from merely intellectual knowledge to a living and transformative experience of God. Another crucial application of Job's secret is the understanding that God is infinitely greater and more complex than our human mind can comprehend. This invites us to a posture of humility and reverence before the divine mystery. When we face situations that we do not understand or that seem unjust, we can remember God's words to Job, recognizing that our perspective is limited. Finally, Job's secret teaches us to value inner transformation above external circumstances. Although Job was materially restored, the true victory was his spiritual transformation. In our own lives, we are challenged to seek first God's kingdom and His righteousness, trusting that everything else will be added to us according to God's will. This means prioritizing our spiritual growth and intimacy with God, even in the midst of difficulties. A crucial aspect of Job's secret that cannot be underestimated is the importance of perseverance in faith. Throughout his entire trial, Job remained firm in his belief in God, even when he didn't understand what was happening or why he was suffering. This perseverance wasn't blind stubbornness or denial of the reality of his suffering. On the contrary, it was an unshakable trust in God's character, even when circumstances seemed to contradict everything he believed about divine goodness and justice. The Apostle James in the New Testament specifically highlights this aspect of Job's story. "You have heard of the perseverance of Job and have seen the end intended by the Lord, that the Lord is very compassionate and merciful." James 5.